Let's learn Spanish with one of cinema's most iconic pairings, Indiana Jones and Marion Ravenwood. The way this video will work is simple. First, you watch the video with subtitles, then you learn the most important vocabulary, expressions, pronunciation, and cultural context, and finally, you'll rewatch the video without subtitles and you'll understand almost 100% by the end of this video. A dashing archaeologist and the feisty daughter of Indy's mentor, these two share a tumultuous past, filled with passion, betrayal, and undeniable chemistry. When they last met, Indy ruined her life and abandoned her to work in a bar in Nepal, but now he needs her help to stop the Nazis. Will she? Comencemos.
Sé que hice mal y no me siento muy feliz por eso, pero tal vez podamos ayudarnos el uno al otro. Necesito una pieza que tu padre colecciona. Una pieza de bronce como de este tamaño, con un agujero en el centro de cristal. ¿Sabes de lo que estoy hablando?
Sí, y me encanta.
¿Dónde está Abner? ¿Dónde está Abner?
Abner falleció.
Marion, lo siento. Sé que hice mal y no me siento muy feliz por eso, pero tal vez podamos ayudarnos el uno al otro.
Sé que hice mal y no me siento... Sé que hice mal y no me siento muy feliz por eso. Muy feliz por eso. Pero tal vez podamos ayudarnos el uno al otro. Ayudarnos el uno al otro.
Sé que hice mal y no me siento muy feliz por eso, pero tal vez podamos ayudarnos el uno al otro. Necesito una pieza que tu padre colecciona.
Necesito una pieza que tu padre coleccionó.
Necesito una pieza que tu padre colecciona. Una pieza de bronce como de este tamaño, con un agujero en el centro de cristal.
Una pieza de bronce y como de este tamaño con un agujero en el centro de cristal. En el centro de cristal. The word como typically means such or as, like for example, como he dicho antes, which means as I said before. However, como can also be used as a way to describe something by giving not too accurate descriptions. The expression como de is a Spanish phrase that translates to about or approximately in English. For example, you might say, la puerta es como de 2 metros de alto, which means the door is about 2 meters tall. Or you could say, es como de color azulado, which means it's like a bluish color. In the given sentence, como de este tamaño means about this size, which he then demonstrates with his hands.
Una pieza de bronce como de este tamaño, con un agujero en el centro de cristal. ¿Sabes de lo que estoy hablando?
¿Sabes de lo que estoy hablando? ¿Sabes de lo que translates to do you know what? Sabes comes from the verb saber, which means to know. De means of, lo means it, and que means that. So, sabes de lo que literally translates to do you know of that? However, do you know what is a much more accurate translation. Sabes de lo que is a phrase often used when checking if someone understands or is aware of the topic being discussed. For example, you might hear someone say, ¿Sabes de lo que hablo cuando digo arqueología? Which means, do you know what I'm talking about when I say archaeology?
¿Sabes de lo que estoy hablando?
Sí, y me encanta.
Me encanta translates to I love it in English. This phrase is used to express a strong liking or love for something or someone. It's a much stronger expression than me gusta. For example, if someone asks you if you like a certain type of music, you could respond with sí, me encanta, which means yes, I adore it. Another example could be me encanta este libro, which means I adore this book. If you want to say me encanta, but you want to use a more colloquial and informal expression, you can say me mola, as in me molan las vacaciones de verano, which means I love summer vacation. There's a lot of expressions to convey you like or love something in Spanish. Here are some of them in order of less to more intensity. Me gusta, me mola, me encanta, lo adoro, lo amo. That last one is reserved for something you truly love, so use it wisely.
Sí, y me encanta.
¿Dónde está Abner? ¿Dónde está Abner?
Abner falleció.
Falleció means passed away or died. It's a more formal and respectful way to refer to someone's death in Spanish. For example, you might hear someone say, Mi abuelo falleció el año pasado, which means my grandfather passed away last year. A more informal way and more used expression is the verb morir, as in murió mi perro, meaning my dog died. And the most informal and colloquial way of all that you can talk about death in Spanish is by using the verb palmar. For example, la ha palmado, meaning he kicked the bucket. Be warned, that expression is highly informal and even a little bit disrespectful, so maybe just use it when talking about fictional characters.
Abner falleció.
Mario, lo siento.
Lo siento translates to I'm sorry in English. It's a common phrase used to express regret or to apologize for something, and we all know that Indy definitely has a lot to apologize for. It's used in both formal and informal situations. For example, if you accidentally bump into someone, you might say, Lo siento, no te había visto, which means I'm sorry I didn't see you. Other expressions that you can use to say the same thing are perdón, as in perdón, ¿puedo pasar? Meaning, sorry, can you let me through? Or disculpe, as in disculpe, ¿me puede decir dónde estoy? Which means, excuse me, can you tell me where I am?
Mario, lo siento.
¿Sabes lo que le has hecho a mi vida?
¿Sabes lo que le has hecho a mi vida? A mi vida, lo que le has hecho translates to what you have done to. It's a phrase often used to express the impact of one's actions on another person, and yeah, Indy has had a lot of impact on Marion's life. In Spanish, the pronoun le is used to refer to him, her, or it. In this case, le refers to mi vida, or my life. Lo que le has hecho can be used in situations where someone has affected another person in some way, as we've seen, not always positively. For example, you might hear someone say, No me puedo creer lo que le has hecho, which means I can't believe what you've done to her.
¿Sabes lo que le has hecho a mi vida?
Solo puedo repetirte que me perdones.
Solo puedo repetirte que me perdones. Me perdones. Puedo comes from the verb poder, which means can or to be able to. Repetirte comes from the verb repetir, which means to repeat or to say again. Solo puedo repetirte translates to I can only ask you again. It's used when you want to emphasize that you've said something multiple times, usually in a context while you're trying to convince someone or something or apologize, which is funny because we haven't heard Indy apologize once. The word solo can mean many different things depending on the context it's in and how you use it. So let's look at some examples in order to understand this word better.
Solo trabajo en negro.
If we click on solo on these interactive subtitles, we see that in this context, the solo means only or just, exactly like in the Indiana Jones scene.
Solo puedo repetirte que me perdones.
In this other video, however,
Solo, ¿qué puede hacer uno?
if we click on solo, we can see that in this other context, it means alone, because the word solo also works as a male adjective. The best way to learn the many meanings a word can have is by hearing it used as much as possible. So let's watch another example.
Estás solo.
Tus amigos están en apuros.
If you're wondering what this handy-dandy tool is, it's FluentU, an app for learning Spanish with authentic videos, including movie scenes, clips from TV shows, TED Talks, and music videos. FluentU has thousands of videos, all of which have subtitles written by language experts, so you always see the correct definitions for words and expressions in that specific context, plus video examples of natives using the vocab. FluentU also creates personalized quizzes and speaking questions to make sure you remember everything you learn. Try it now for absolutely free. Just sign up for a 2-week trial using the link in the description below. Plus, FluentU is currently having a sale, so now it's the perfect time to check it out.
Solo puedo repetirte que me perdones.
Síguelo diciendo si quieres.
Síguelo diciendo. Síguelo diciendo. Si quieres. Si quieres. Si quieres translates to if you want. It's a casual way to give someone permission to do something or suggest that they can do as they wish. This time, it feels a little bit convoluted. For example, you might hear someone say, puedes tomar un descanso si quieres, which means you can take a break if you want. Quieres comes from the verb querer, meaning to want. But be careful because querer can also refer to feeling affection for someone, which is why te quiero, for instance, is translated to I love you.
Síguelo diciendo si quieres.
Lo siento.
Claro, todo el mundo lo siente.
Claro, todo el mundo lo siente. Claro, todo el mundo lo siente. Claro, claro, todo el mundo lo siente. Lo siente. Todo el mundo literally translates to all the world, but it's commonly used to mean everyone or everybody. It's a phrase you'll often hear in Spanish, used in a variety of contexts, mostly as an exaggeration because it's not all the world. For example, todo el mundo está aquí means everyone is here. Here's another example. Todo el mundo lo sabe, which means everybody knows it.
Claro, todo el mundo lo siente. Abner lo sintió también cuando me abandonó para ir en busca de esa pequeña pieza de chatarra.
Abner lo sintió también cuando me abandonó para ir en busca de esa pequeña pieza de chatarra. Abner lo sintió también cuando me abandonó para ir en busca de esa pequeña pieza de chatarra. Abner lo sintió también. Abner lo sintió también cuando me abandonó. Cuando me abandonó. Para ir en busca de esa pequeña pieza de chatarra. Esa pequeña pieza de chatarra. Ir en busca translates to go in search of or go looking for. It's a common phrase used when someone is setting out to find something or someone. Ir en busca de can be used literally when talking about actually leaving to look for a physical object, a person, or a place. Or it can be used figuratively to search for something intangible. For example, you might say, voy a ir en busca de un nuevo trabajo, which means I'm going to go looking for a new job. In the context of the line, Abner lo sintió también cuando me abandonó para ir en busca de esa pequeña pieza de chatarra. It means Abner was also sorry when he left me to go looking for that little piece of junk. No vayas en busca de vocabulario. Have you checked out our free PDF? It gives you easy access to all of the vocabulary that we have learned today, so you can study it whenever. Get it by clicking on the link in the description below.
Abner lo sintió también cuando me abandonó para ir en busca de esa pequeña pieza de chatarra. Yo lamento el haber decidido conservarla.
Yo lamento el haber decidido conservarla. Yo lamento el haber decidido conservarla. Yo lamento el haber decidido conservarla. Conservarla. Lamento el haber translates to I regret having in English. It's a phrase used to express regret over a past action. In Spanish, the verb lamentar is followed by el haber and the past participle of the verb that describes the action regretted. For example, you might say, lamento el haber comido tanto, which means I regret having eaten so much.
Yo lamento el haber decidido conservarla. Siempre nos estamos lamentando.
Siempre nos estamos lamentando. Siempre nos estamos lamentando. Siempre nos estamos lamentando. Lamentando. Siempre means always in English. It's used to describe an action or state that is continuous or happens all the time. For example, siempre estoy cansado, which means I'm always tired. In the given line, siempre nos estamos lamentando translates to we are always sorry. Another example could be siempre llego tarde a la escuela, which means I always arrive late to school.
Siempre nos estamos lamentando.
Tienes este medallón de bronce y vas a dármelo.
Tienes este medallón de bronce, vas a dármelo. Tienes este medallón de bronce, vas a dármelo. Tienes este medallón, tienes este medallón de bronce, vas a dármelo. Dármelo. Vas a dármelo is a combination of vas a, you're going to, dar, to give, me, to me, and lo, it. So, vas a dármelo actually means you are going to give it to me. In Spanish, an indirect object pronoun, in this case, me, and a direct object pronoun, in this case, lo, can be attached to the end of the verb to indicate both the subject and the object. Vas a is the imperative form, meaning it's a command. This mood is a common way to express actions and commands in the future. For example, you could say, vas a comprarlo, which means you are going to buy it. Or you could say, vas a suscribirte al canal. Click subscribe so you'll never miss any of our upcoming videos, like Learn Spanish with Friends. Chandler gets handcuffed by Rachel's boss.
Tienes este medallón de bronce y vas a dármelo.
Tal vez. No sé dónde se encuentra.
Tal vez no sé dónde se encuentra. Tal vez no sé dónde se encuentra. Tal vez no sé dónde se encuentra. ¿Dónde se encuentra? Tal vez translates to maybe or perhaps in English. It's a common phrase used to express uncertainty or doubt about something. For example, if someone asks you if you're going to a party, you might respond with tal vez if you're unsure. Here's another example of tal vez. Tal vez vaya al cine mañana, which means maybe I'll go to the cinema tomorrow. Another way you can say maybe in Spanish is by using puede, which comes from the verb poder, meaning can. For example, no lo sé, puede, meaning I don't know, maybe. And if you want to sound more fancy, you might say quizás. For example, quizás atienda el banquete, which translates to maybe I'll attend the banquet.
Tal vez. No sé dónde se encuentra.
Pero podrías encontrarlo. Hay $3,000.
Pero podrías encontrarlo. Hay $3,000. Pero podrías encontrarlo. Hay $3,000. Pero podrías encontrarlo. Podrías encontrarlo. Hay $3,000. Hay $3,000. Podrías is a form of the verb poder, which, like we saw before, means can or to be able to. In this case, podrías is used to express possibility, and it translates to you could. When used in the affirmative, podrías is often used to suggest or propose something in a polite way. For example, podrías ayudarme con el proyecto, which translates to you could help me with the project. Another example would be podrías intentarlo de nuevo, which means you could try it again. When used as part of a question, podrías is a way to politely ask for something. For example, podrías pasarme la sal, meaning could you pass the salt?
Pero podrías encontrarlo. Hay $3,000.
Bueno, eso es muy diferente, pero no del todo.
Bueno, eso es muy diferente, pero no del todo. Bueno, eso es muy diferente, pero no del todo. Bueno, eso es muy diferente. Eso es muy diferente, pero no del todo. Pero no del todo. No del todo translates to not entirely or not completely. It's used to express that something is not fully the case or not completely true. For instance, if someone says, ¿entiendes lo que estoy diciendo? Meaning, do you understand what I'm saying? You could respond with, no del todo, if you only partially understand. Another example could be, no estoy del todo segura, which means I'm not entirely sure.
Bueno, eso es muy diferente, pero no del todo.
Te puedo dar otros 2 cuando se termine la misión. Es importante, Marion.
Te puedo dar otros 2. Te puedo dar otros 2 cuando se termine la misión. Cuando se termine la misión. Es importante, Marion. Es importante, Marion. Otros 2 translates to another 2 or 2 more. It's used when you're adding more of something that has already been mentioned or understood in the context. For instance, if you're at a party and someone asks if you want more drinks, you could say, sí, quiero otras 2, which means, yes, I want 2 more. In this case, Indy is referring to the small amount of $2,000.
Te puedo dar otros 2 cuando se termine la misión. Es importante, Marion. Confía en mí. Dame la pieza. ¿Sabes dónde está?
Confía en mí. Dame la pieza. ¿Sabes dónde está? Confía en mí. Dame la pieza. ¿Sabes dónde está? Confía en mí. Confía en mí. Dame la pieza. Dame la pieza. ¿Sabes dónde está? ¿Sabes dónde está? Confía en mí translates to trust me. It's a phrase often used when someone is trying to reassure another person that they're trustworthy. In Spanish, the verb confiar is followed by the preposition en when you want to express trust in someone. For example, confía en tu pobre madre, meaning trust your poor mother. Or it can express trust in something, as in confía en mi instinto, which means trust in my instinct. So, confía en mí is a direct command to trust Indy. I don't know if I would. You might say, confía en mí, sé lo que estoy haciendo, which means trust me, I know what I'm doing. Famous last words.
Confía en mí. Dame la pieza. ¿Sabes dónde está?
Vuelve mañana.
Vuelve means return or come back. It's often used when asking someone to return to a place or come back at a later time. For example, a shopkeeper might say, vuelve mañana, which means come back tomorrow. Here's another example. Vuelve a casa, which means return home.
Vuelve mañana.
¿Por qué?
¿Por qué translates to why in English. It's used to ask for reasons or explanations about something. It's important to know that in Spanish, whenever there's a question, there must also be an inverted question mark at the beginning, a unique feature of the language. And it's also important to keep in mind that while ¿por qué means why, as in ¿por qué estás triste?, which means why are you sad, porque without an accent and as just one word means because. For example, porque yo lo digo, meaning because I say so. So, since Spanish doesn't phonetically have different words for why and because, it's important that you remember the correct spelling of each one.
¿Por qué?
Porque yo lo digo, solo por eso.
Porque yo lo digo, solo por eso. Porque yo lo digo, solo por eso. Porque yo lo digo. Porque yo lo digo. Solo por eso. Solo por eso. Solo por eso translates to just because of that or only for that reason. It's often used to emphasize the sole reason for an action or decision. For instance, you might hear someone say, solo por eso ya estoy cansada, which means just because of that, I'm already tired. It's worth noting that solo por eso is a common phrase in both formal and informal Spanish. Another example could be, solo por eso decidí ayudarle, which means just because of that, I decided to help him. Let's see if Marion has the same mindset.
Porque yo lo digo, solo por eso. Nos vemos mañana, Indiana Jones.
Nos vemos mañana, Indiana Jones. Nos vemos mañana, Indiana Jones. Nos vemos mañana. Nos vemos mañana, Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones. Nos vemos is a casual way to say we'll see each other in Spanish, although a much more common translation is see ya. It's a common phrase used when saying goodbye and implies that you plan to see the person again in the future. For example, you might say, nos vemos en la fiesta, which means see you at the party. Another way you can express seeing someone again in Spanish is hasta luego, which literally means until later, but it's translated as see you later. An example of this is genial, hasta luego, which means great, see you later. Fun fact, in Spain you almost always say hasta luego instead of saying adios or goodbye, even though you might never see them again.
Sé que hice mal y no me siento muy feliz por eso, pero tal vez podamos ayudarnos el uno al otro. Necesito una pieza que tu padre colecciona. Una pieza de bronce como de este tamaño, con un agujero en el centro de cristal. ¿Sabes de lo que estoy hablando?
Sí, y me encanta.
¿Dónde está Abner? ¿Dónde está Abner?
Abner falleció.
Mario, lo siento.
¿Sabes lo que le has hecho a mi vida?
Solo puedo repetirte que me perdones.
Síguelo diciendo si quieres.
Lo siento.
Claro, todo el mundo lo siente. Abner lo sintió también cuando me abandonó para ir en busca de esa pequeña pieza de chatarra. Yo lamento el haber decidido conservarla. Siempre nos estamos lamentando.
Tienes este medallón de bronce y vas a dármelo.
Tal vez. No sé dónde se encuentra.
Pero podrías encontrarlo. Hay $3,000.
Bueno, eso es muy diferente. Pero no del todo.
Te puedo dar otros 2 cuando se termine la misión. Es importante, Marion. Confía en mí. Dame la pieza. ¿Sabes dónde está?
Vuelve mañana.
¿Por qué?
Porque yo lo digo, solo por eso. Nos vemos mañana, Indiana Jones.
Next up is another timeless classic romance, Titanic. So go watch that video to enjoy another iconic couple as you learn more romantic Spanish.